Real quick before we get into today's video, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon for all their support, because without their help, the upgraded content that you see on the channel, that you really see in the video essays and a few of the lore discussions would not be possible without their help. But over on the Patreon, you get sneak peeks of videos months in advance. Patrons also get priority on the Q&As. Every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul, and I give away a lot of good goodies in that. And it's also just really cool to talk to you guys in the DMs. And if some of you guys have theories that you want me to talk about on the channel, obviously I will talk about your theories. Just send them to me over on the Patreon. But with that being said, let's get into the review. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto episode 251. And now that episode 251 is done in the books, we got a lot to talk about. This was a big episode for Boruto as a character. We got another body that dropped in this episode, and we really got to talk about that fight that takes place, because we get to see that one of the characters that I called a fluke in the tuning exams, I say, hey, like, he leveled up, but you know, at the same time, I'm calling fluke until I see something a little more. Old boy leveled up, so we really got to talk about that fight that takes place towards the end of the episode. So with that being said, let's kind of get into the initial thoughts and then the recap of the episode itself. So I have to say, I thought that it was a very smart idea in this episode to really focus on how Chojuro was struggling with some of that hatred once he got that confirmation that Kagura, somebody who he wanted to be the next Mizukage, was struck down, and to see how Hebiichiro was struck down, and then also to see how Araumi and Ikada were implementing 48 laws of power. In particular, one of the laws being you get other people to play with the cards that you're dealt, and you must be a master of chaos, because when people are not united and they're moving in a chaotic manner, it's easier to move them around, to put them into vulnerable positions. And the other thing I really liked is that this episode really set us up for Boruto chapter 58, where you have the issues with Team 7, and in this episode you saw how Kawaki was directly questioning Sarada's lead by getting in her face. He's mumbling about Boruto underneath his breath. We're seeing signs of those seeds of split. We've been seeing them all arc, but they were definitely in our face in this episode. So now that my initial thoughts are out of the way, let's back up and get into the recap. So I like how after Chojuro gets that news and Chojuro slamming his fist and getting super upset, you have this scene where Boruto is coming to grips with the information that was given to him about Ikada actually being the son of Araumi, and Boruto learning that it's because he killed Siren that essentially Ikada was pushed over to the edge. And I know some people said, well, Boruto didn't get that finishing blow. It's one of those things where Boruto wasn't the one that struck her down, but he participated in the battle where she was taken out. So for all intents and purposes, Boruto's essentially an accomplice to murder. So that's kind of why Ikada's looking at him in that manner. So I like seeing that right there. And I like how while everybody else is trying to give Ikada the benefit of the doubt, Boruto is just putting the pieces together in his head. He's fallen to his knees. Boruto's having a little bit of trouble breathing. And what I like there is that when Boruto finally snaps the final pieces together, he slams his fist onto the ground. And I like how as he's breathing heavy, Boruto's coming to the realization that if they don't stop things right now, he's going to end up having to fight somebody that he views as being a friend. And I like that, because this is one of those times where for Boruto as a character, he's already learning about that cycle of hatred, but understanding that he's going to have to raise fists against somebody that he cares for. You have to look at it from this perspective. Boruto is a character way back in the Academy arc, when people like to say Boruto still didn't have a ninja way, he didn't have a goal as a character, and people still say that now. But the fact is that Boruto's goal, what he told Kakashi, was that he wanted to be strong enough to be there to help his friends achieve their dreams. And for somebody like that to have to raise up arms against somebody that you view as being a friend, that's a very strong conflict for Boruto right there. It's subtle, it's not overly melodramatic, but I like that right there, because it's putting a good internal conflict for Boruto's a character, and it's given us an external conflict where everything's meshing. The internal conflict is Boruto's goal to help his friends reach their goals, in this case help Ikada reach his goal one day, and also the external conflict is being Ikada himself transforming into his full power mode and leading the Funato, and Boruto inevitably having to clash against him. So I like seeing that right there, and I like how as Boruto gets that realization, Chojuro in the office is struggling. He's like, I want to crush the Funato, but we might need to look for another way. And that's when Isari shows up. Isari is tied up, and he pulls a moment where he flexes and he basically breaks out of the restraints to show that, like, I came here in good faith. I came through the front gate. I let you guys restrain me. I could have broken out at any given point if I wanted to, but I'm here to negotiate with you as an equal. And Isari is doing a lot of flexing at this point. It's like, yo, I got control of the Funato. My other siblings that were leading other units, they're all dead. He isn't even counting on Ikada because he doesn't know that Ikada transformed. And I like how, as he's talking to Chojuro, saying, I got people who are dissatisfied with the way that my father's doing things. Have no worries. When the time comes, I can handle the Funato. He's talking, trying to get a peace talk going. And him and Chojuro, they have moments where both of them are holding their cards close to the vest because there's mistrust between the two of them. And what I like is that as they talk about their goals for wanting to stop things, Isari says, we just want to coexist. And that's always been at the center of this conflict, which is that the expansion that the feudal lord and Chojuro are doing in the land of water is trampling on some of the way of life of people on these other islands, some of these other cultures like the Funato. And like I've talked about in the past, if you go through and you read the light novels and you read them closely, seeds of what was going on in the land of water were sprinkled. And in the Sasuke Shin and the Teacher Star People novel, that was a key conflict in that novel, where you had the people on that island that were directly going up against the Mizukage wanting to incorporate more technology because it impacts their way of life and their religion. And what I like about this is that Chojoro's being forced to, at least right now, consider coexisting, not getting everything that he wants, that he believes is right for his country. And that's when Araumi shows up, and Araumi has this broadcast that's going on, and he's talking, and one of the things that he says, he gives a call out to anybody who is not already allied with the Funato to go ahead and join them, because they're going to strike that final blow against the Hidden Mist Village and the Land of Water. By taking out the Hidden Mist Village, you take out the military force, so you essentially take over the country. And what I like about that right there is that Araumi waited for the right time to try and do a focus encounter, because Chojoro's already said they're kind of split out. And if they have to pursue an all-out war with the Funato, because the Funato controls so much of the sea, they're going to have to split up their forces even further, and it's going to be a huge problem. And so Araumi's got the right idea to try and strike now with a focused blow. And what I like is that as Araumi's speaking, he already put the plea out there like, hey, if you're on these other islands, come join me. But the other thing that you see is that he gives that quick warning to Isari, and he says like, yo, I don't care if you're blood related to me. If you stand with the Land of Water, you're dead. And before Isari can do anything, that weapon that Araumi controls that he gave to Isari, that weapon kills Isari. It does so by stabbing him through the chest right there and doing all that damage, essentially destroying his heart. And what I like is that as they're doing this, that's when Ikada begins to speak. And once Ikada begins to speak and he's given his reasons for joining the battlefield right now, you see the reaction of the shipbuilders, and most importantly, you see the reaction of Boruto's friends as they're listening to this and they're going, wait a second, that's Ikada's voice. He's actually working with them. And so they went from trying to protect him to understanding that Ikada's lost his way. And Boruto, as he hears this, Boruto's face just changes and he gets all these flashback memories, and Boruto gets to a point where he's saying we need to try and stop him. And once this happens, that's when Kawaki, he takes the side of Bunten and Kyoho and Metal Lee, and he says this is war. And if you recall, a few episodes ago, Kawaki told Boruto, if you're gonna have these childish ideas and these childish notions, you might as well not fight. Kawaki goes right up to Sarada when she takes Boruto's side, and he tells Sarada, this is a battlefield. If you want to stay alive, the only thing you need to worry about is yourself. You can't worry about nobody else. And he's directly looking at Sarada and Boruto as he says this, and that's his way of saying, like, yo, you might be the Chunin leader, but I do not acknowledge you right now. And it's one of those things where, again, if you read the manga, you know exactly where this is going. That's why when people say, oh my God, I don't really care for the way that they're doing all these anime original arcs, this is one of those things where the sub arc of this arc right here has been Kawaki's growing dissension. It's making more sense on why he was so quick to call out Sarada in Boruto chapter 58. So I like that right there. We're seeing some of those back and forth moments building right there. So this is rich conflict. And what I like is that when Boruto starts declaring, I'm going to stop this war, I'm going to talk to Chojuro, I'm going to try and see if we can't seek a peaceful arrangement that will work for the two of us, that's when Bunten's like, yo, I don't want to hear none of this. The only way we can avenge Kagura and Heavy Ichigo is if we kill them. And Kyoho, the man's pretty much snapped. The man's like, we're going to kill every Funato. I don't care if it's Ikada. I don't care if it's Wikada, Hukada. I'm killing everybody. I don't care if it's Wakanda. They dying. And so I like what you see right there, because when this goes on, Bunten just draws her swords. She's going right at Boruto. Boruto looks like he's getting ready to square up. He's like, oh crap, she pulled her weapons on me. But Boruto, he wasn't shook in that moment. And before he can square up and basically knock her out, that's when you see Iwabe jump in clutch. He uses the Earth Release Mud Wall Jutsu. He's able to stop Kyoho and Bunten. Bunten slashing away at the attack. Kyoho smashing away at it. And before Kyoho can get any closer, that's when Denki of all people, let me restate this one more time. Denki of all people is sitting there throwing hands with Kyoho.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap. No bullshit, bro.
This man, we gotta give the man props, because we saw like when he had the ninja tech and he's doing the taijutsu and everything. I would say, well, you know, the ninja tech might be augmenting his reflexes and stuff, and you know, it's cool, he could use lightning release on his own. You know, you can tell he's been doing some training, but I always looked at him like he was a little computer nerd. I never really rocked with Denki like that. And what I like here is that it just kind of shows it doesn't matter where you start at. As long as you put the work in, you can close the gap between yourself and somebody that's further ahead. It's just a matter of believing in yourself and putting the time in. And Denki essentially was the Boruto anime version of that super overweight guy who, when they first go to the gym, they can only get on the treadmill and only walk on the treadmill for about 1 to 2 minutes, but they in there every day, they working, they putting in the work, they're building themselves up to where they can do some weightlifting, they do some weightlifting, they do some cardio, and you look up in a couple of years and they drop most of that weight, and now they're starting to get some muscle tone. That's what you're seeing right here with Denki. The fact that he's able to close the gap in a few years with somebody like Kyoho, who was well ahead of him, and he's holding him off with his lightning release jutsu. He's holding him off, he's keeping him up with taijutsu. Much respect to Denki right there. So I like that, and I like how as Denki and Iwabe are fighting, that's when Metal Lee is sitting there, and the man is genuinely torn because he wants to kill some Funato too, but he's also seeing as his teammates are fighting, and we're likely going to see Metal Lee step in and help his teammates. That's inevitably what's going to happen. But I like how when Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki, they run off, Kawaki is following after him, and he just says 2 words, but those 2 words hang so heavy. He says, damn Boruto. And you can tell from the way that he's drawn, he's very pissed off right here, and it's because he thinks Boruto's naive, and most importantly, again, the man does not agree with Sarada's way of leading. So great conflict in this episode. The episode ends off with Ikada leading the forces there, and they're going towards the Shionomi, which is that huge device that is essentially at the center of this conflict, because it's impeding on the way of life for a lot of people. I like that, and I also like how the episode ends with Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki running because they're trying to get to the land of water, and they're trying to intercept Chojuro before he can step onto his battlefield. So my episode question to you guys is, how do you feel about the Boruto anime choosing to drop another body here, and how do you feel about Boruto being confronted with the idea of having to fight a friend? And finally, what are your thoughts about continuing the divide between Kawaki and Team 7? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you want to learn more about the unrest that's been going on in the Hidden Mist Village, you want to check out some of these videos that you're seeing on the screen right now.